that Michele put on the presentation, but is what do we understand by data governance? I'm going to write on the chat in order to have it all, and if anybody connect later. So who wants to break the ice?
Hey, it's Stephen. I'll jump in. So from a data governance perspective, we've actually changed our team name to Data Enablement. I believe it's really around how do we enable people to utilize data, give them access to it, let them understand it, have confidence in the data, and really to drive challenges and questions that the company has to deliver some value, right, from that data. So I would say I think we should have a pact to change data governance to data enablement someday.
Okay, very good. Any other opinion?
Yeah, no, I think that's an interesting take on it. I know governance often has a dirty word for many companies, or becomes one relatively quickly. So I like this idea of data enablement. It's a good idea. Often I find in data governance space, we're trying to find creative new ways to package or articulate concepts because they very quickly lose their resonance. So I appreciate that idea.
Okay, we have talked in this meeting in the first topic with Loretta. He talked about the DAIMA framework, and you know, with the DAIMA wheel, that the data governance is the center of all of the other activities or the other topics, but of course data management have many other legs. And so, okay, if you can share any experience or difficulties that you had find in any of your initiative or your activities in which data governance perhaps is not so effective that should be, and any opinion of how to improve or what activities can lead us to a proper data governance.
I can go this time, I guess. So we attempted to build out our data governance program very much, I think, top down with an enterprise data governance office. We attempted to define all the guidelines, best practices, and standards at the enterprise level, and work with the lines of business in hiring sort of what was considered to be, a business data steward for each key line of business in our enterprise. But what we found is that the lines of business and the leaders within the lines of business and the data management teams didn't take well to the introduction of the governance stewards. So, one thing we learned was, even though that's quote unquote the approach you should take, and these are the roles that you should have, you often have to make sure you've got your partnerships within the lines of business and the data management teams really well solidified, and those relationships built, and the buy-in there before you attempt to try and implement so some of the programs and standards and best practices is what we found. It did not go well, long term. So now I've learned from that, and moving forward with other companies, I take a very different approach. So just food for thought for those who are new, and for those who aren't, I'm sure you are aware of these problems and challenges.
Yeah, each place is different, but common mistakes in every place, and probably in some cases common solutions. Okay.
I agree with Timothy that in several places the data governance is totally different. And in many times, at least in Spain, what I know is that it's implemented, but very informal. So one knows about the data, but they are not talking about data governance. This is the person who better knows the system, and that's it. Okay, so and it's the main interlocutor normally I have, and that's it. But every company is totally different. and I have examples that nobody knows about data. so I'm doing business intelligence with them, and they are seeing data, and that's it. But they don't know how it works, and they don't know anything about this. So I think that data governance is a big term for a lot of companies, and others are totally informal. So I think that the good approach is to have a non-invasive approach or policy to deal with them.
Okay. Anybody else want to?
I think.
Yeah, Rafik.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest hurdles, obviously, against data ownership within organizations is that, or at least from my experience working with various organizations from a consulting perspective, is that a lot of the time you get confusion of who really want to own the data and what is a data owner really mean for a lot of the organizations. And then even if they know what the data owner is, then it becomes a question of, do I really want to own the data or not? And then even if you get across that hurdle, then you're faced by a problem of the fact that we really want to open the architecture, we want to open the organizations and the platforms, etc. And then do we really want to become a very process-heavy organization, or do we want to be very agile? And those concepts sometimes fly in the face of each other constantly as well from an organizational perspective. So there is, I think, with the face of the new technologies coming about, the concept of data ownership is starting to become more of a barrier than an enablement for a lot of the stuff. That's certainly some of the things that I've observed. It's a very important concept, but the question is how to balance it with all of the new data technologies and open architectures that we're starting to set up across the various organizations.
Okay, it's an important point.
If I could just add a really quick sentence here. I think, too, you have to differentiate between data ownership and data domains, if you will, from an ownership perspective, and then the actual analytics and insights piece. Because it gets very confusing to owners around, especially data domains, where somebody takes their data, manipulates it, transforms it, and then holds them accountable for that transformation where the transformation was done incorrectly, right? So I think delineation and very specific roles and responsibilities between what a data domain owner is versus, say, an analytics and insights owner is a huge step forward to understanding that there is a separation of duties and making sure you have the right people in place.
Yeah, I totally agree. Although that then brings you back in what's the data domain as well, which then becomes quite a confusing concept within the organization. Yeah.
Okay, and for the last minutes, we are going to input in the second question, and we can spend hours talking about this one. So how do we convince our company that is crucial? How we say our CEO or our board that it's important to spend money in data governance initiatives?
I've not participated here, but I'll jump in since I jump in. I think basically just look around the company for problems. I mean, if anybody's been a part of the recent Microsoft bug, let's say, infiltration, understanding where all of your critical data is, so use a pain point as an opportunity, right? So companies are chasing around, understanding, did I actually leak any PI information? And they don't even have an inventory of their data, as an example, right? And just take those examples and show them how data can help them be better at solving those problems and really accelerating the time to value, like literally from a decision-making standpoint.
I agree with this part, Stephen, but I agree with you. But I think that this decision should be made from top to the down. So I mean that perhaps you are pushing a lot, okay, for having these great policies like data governance, okay, and perhaps sometimes you have to wait a bit that the top is convinced that is seeing evidences that this company should adopt some data governance initiatives. So I'm not pretty sure that being sure that this is an important topic for all the companies, but each company has their own maturity about data and all these kind of things. So pushing a lot, I'm not pretty sure that is good, but I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, as well as the previous question, in depending on the company, the size and many other topics, we can perform different activities in order to convince our bosses. Okay, seems that we have finished this dynamic, so let's go to the main call and good luck to the next ones.
Bye bye.
Adiós.
Hablamos.
Chao, Javier. Four minutes for the discussion, so it will be a problem.
What have you decided? What have you decided then?
Well, we haven't talked about many topics because Javier and me are friends for other forums. So
you're just talking about the wives, the kids, lockdown.
Well, many topics we can talk about. Lockdown.
Yeah.
You know.
Hello, Tony.
I have put on the chat the question that Miquel prepared to us for this discussion, that if it's really possible to democratize data, and is related with this conversation about Alicia.
What do they really mean by that? Yeah, I think that the reason every CDO fails, and every data lake fails is they never build an API. Or if they do, it's just a cheesy RESTful API. And if you have 100 tables, instead of one API that can get 100 different tables, you have 100 different APIs that get one table. So to me, if you look at, is it n.2, like federalized, right? Federalized data access, federated data access, that's the word. And one API call, obviously 3, log in, log out, authentication, entitlements, but one a function called get data. So we did this in New York in 1987. Yeah, long time ago.
Oh,
long time ago.
This is the year when I was born, so.
Yeah, so and nobody got it. We rewrote it again in 2005. Yeah, just very simple. So we could span, Oracle, Sybase, SQL Server, flat files. Now, it wasn't perfect. Yeah, but the two things. Everybody could come to this one nexus point to get the data. We see it a little bit now in the cloud, in Google Cloud. But, then it's not democratic if there's only one vendor. Yeah? So for me, I'm a big fan of self-service. And if it was easier just to abstract how I might get access to the data, there looked like there were a lot of Santander people, certainly judging by the names. And I'm at Sky TV, one of my guys from Sky Italia, he was there. Yeah. So we talk about this every week. If we can make it, and we're Azure, we're Google Cloud, we're AWS. So we just have too many ways to get the data. We've got 2,500 systems at Sky. At HSBC, we had 12,000 systems. So I think it's hard to do it. So until they make it easy, I think it's difficult.
Yeah, it's very hard. Probably it's easier in thinking in a single company regarding the speech about Alicia, but if you are thinking about data owned by many different places, companies, and different people, the challenge is huge.
Yeah, and we might say, what data? Yeah, okay, CIA, Factbook, Google. So here we have, the Boris bikes, you ride your bike, that's all on the Google Cloud. If you're in financial services, I can't, that's Bloomberg data. I pay for it. Rafik can't have it. You've got, 6FI data. Javier can't see it. So I think within a very small constrained subset, maybe, but for an entire bank, for across the enterprise, no.
Yeah.
See you later. We got to go back.
Okay.
Bye bye. See you.
Quick
Oh,
chat.
sorry.
We are working. We are reaching our objectives, and we don't need data governance, and that's an important point to face when you are starting to talk with people in an organization about data governance.
Good.
Yeah, I think one of the key takeaways for me, I mean, it's kind of obvious now, but this idea that you have to focus on enabling business objectives and outcomes. The failures of earlier governance programs to just focus on standards, guidelines, best practices in a vacuum, it was a point of failure, at least for our organization. So to me, that was a good key takeaway from some of the earlier parts of the conversation in the roundtable. So the question just becomes, as your governance program is focusing on the different aspects of data management, how do you find those tie-ins in each scenario effectively? So for me, that's something that I'll be thinking about moving forward, the best ways to do that. Yeah.
Good. Any other opinion on the outcomes of the roundtable? We are discussing what were the outcomes or takeaways from the roundtable that we had before. So you are free to discuss and to talk whatever you want.
One of the things that I took away from this is a view from other lines of businesses. I mean, I've spent all my career in financial services looking at people talk about oil and gas and defense, and the link to data governance was a big benefit for me.
Good. Some more opinions? Any other ideas that you take away from the roundtable?
Yeah, one of the topics that they have mentioned is the importance of the change management, because as well as all of us know that that data governance initiative has many closed parameters and closed activities that we have to perform in any company, but the most difficult one are the people, and try to convince all the organization and all the stakeholders that it's very important to establish a culture in which some of them are the owners of the data. This data must have enough quality to represent the reality of the organization, and this data is used for making decisions and establish the strategic plans of the company. And this is probably one of the main challenges that people that are around the data governance and the data management need to take over in order to get their objectives.
Good. More opinions? I think that it comes in a couple of times, this need to convince all the organization about the importance of the data governance in to really manage data in the organization. There was a question in a previous breakout room, and I would like to retake it. How do you convince the organization of that need to have a central data governance function or person or or book to follow? How you do that?
It's the the most difficult thing to tackle, right? I mean, I feel like really the most compelling way is to show them the risk and the lost opportunity associated with not putting in place governance practices that make data an asset for the firm. If you can't get the executive level to see some of the proof points around that and for the light bulbs to go on, you're going to struggle. So for me, that's the key. And again, those aren't always easy. So I think finding those use cases and examples with peers and partners across other industries is probably one of the key ways to uncover them, and then you can extrapolate those for your current business or industry.
In my experience, to add to that, I mean, you have to quantify it. If you're taking something to a CEO or a CEO, if you don't have a dollar value associated with the story that you're showing them, they immediately lose interest. That's the hardest part, getting a dollar value associated with the risk or the benefit that you're showing them for data governance. It is really difficult. But if you don't do that, they turn off immediately.
Yep.
And a couple of quick wins. You need a couple of quick wins. If you don't have a couple of quick wins, then the path is too hard to follow. The data world right now, for me, is right now very similar many years ago with the SEO strategies, right? When companies try to optimize for search engines, and they thought that in a couple of months they are going to be in page one, but until they didn't see a couple of quick wins, they could just track the span of attention to some other project because they think it is too hard to achieve it. So first thing is to find a couple of pain points, find a couple of quick wins, and then I think the storytelling is going to be much easier. That's according to my experience.
Good. Any more things to share about how to address that problem of convincing the organization of the need of the data governance?
Yeah, probably from my point of view, I think very important, and that's also very clear in the explanation from Bob Sainer also in his book, is that for him the data governance is the execution and the enforcement of authority over the management of data. More or less, they are Bob words. But in my opinion, it is very difficult in under the CDO that the data governance guys are the most important at the table, and that they can lead and enforce those authority. Because in my opinion, I don't know if it's the same for you, and my experience in the data management arena, probably the data governance guys are not the most powerful, and probably because they don't bring to the table the most amount of money for the company. And so, in my opinion, it's not so easy to have the power to execute those type of enforcement. And of course, it's really related to the sponsorship, but it's probably a slightly different point. And I don't know if it resonates for you or not.
Absolutely does. And if the data governance guys do become powerful because they have the right sponsorship, they are usually the most unpopular people on the table.
Yeah.
But I think it comes back to change management, right? At the end of the day, I think where a lot of governance initiatives struggle is I don't think organizations and executives all the way through the heads of different lines of business or areas realize that that's really what it is fundamentally. And change management takes so much effort and time and energy and is an expertise in and of itself. So I feel like that's often where governance programs struggle to really add the value that they really can and should do long term. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I feel like that's a component to it.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely agree. Thank you, Timothy.
Absolutely, Timothy. I agree to it. It has a change management component that it has to begin with.
Yeah, and probably this change management should be applied in two ways. That we said about the sponsorship would be the top down. So having the people, the CXOs, convinced about the importance of the data governance programs, but we also have to do some work with the rest of the people of the organization, because if we show them not only the benefits for the company, also showing them the benefits for themselves, in order to save time, to automatize some tasks and so on, probably they will come and go up to our car.
Totally.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, guys, but we had to finish, and it's been a long afternoon, so let's go back to the main room just to finish. Okay? Thank you, guys. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye.